Security work teaches you to trust the monitors more than your own eyes. 12 hours a night, staring at grainy feeds, you learn that whatever the camera shows you is more reliable than whatever your tired brain wants to convince you of. That's what made it so much worse when the monitor turned out to be right. 3 weeks ago, 20 minutes into a routine graveyard shift at a distribution warehouse outside Reno, Nevada, camera 6 picked up movement along the east loading dock. A single figure. Same Navy uniform I was wearing. Same build. Moving low along the same row of shelving I'd walked past not 10 minutes earlier. I remember reaching for my radio to call it in before my brain fully caught up to what I was looking at. Because the figure on that screen turned to face the camera at exactly the moment I inhaled, sharp and startled, in the booth, and its shoulders rose and fell in perfect time with my breath. My name's Pete Anholm. I'm 42, divorced, and I've worked graveyard security for a mid-sized logistics warehouse outside Reno for going on 6 years. It's the kind of job people romanticize as spooky and end up finding is mostly just boring. 12-hour shifts, 6 monitors, a thermos of bad coffee, and the low industrial hum of refrigeration units running all night on a warehouse floor the size of 2 football fields. That night started like any other. I clocked in at 10 p.m., did my first walkthrough of the floor around 10:20. Nothing unusual. Same stacked pallets, same rows of shelving stretching back into shadow past where the overhead lights don't quite reach. Same faint smell of cardboard and machine oil. Back in the booth by 10:40, coffee in hand, I settled into the monitors the way I had 1,000 nights before. Camera 6 caught the movement around 11:05. A figure near the east loading dock, low and deliberate, moving between shelving units in a way that read immediately as someone who did not want to be seen. My training kicked in before anything else did. I reached for the radio, ready to call it in to the on-site supervisor, standard intruder protocol. Then the figure passed under the one overhead light on that section of the floor, and I got a clean look at what he was wearing. Navy uniform. Same cut, same patch on the left shoulder, same utility belt with the same radio clip to it. I remember laughing, actually laughing out loud alone in that booth, because my first thought was that another guard had come on for a shift swap nobody told me about. I keyed my radio. Hey, who's on the floor with me? No response. Not static, not silence exactly, just nothing. Like the channel had gone completely dead for the 3 seconds I held the button down. I looked back at camera 6. The figure had stopped moving. Standing dead center in the frame, facing the camera directly, in a way that felt less like someone caught by surprise and more like someone who had simply been waiting to be looked at. I want to describe what happened next as carefully as I can, because I've turned it over in my head every night since. I was sitting completely still in that booth chair, my own breath a little quick from the radio going dead the way it had. And on screen, the figure's chest rose, held, fell, in the exact same rhythm as mine. I told myself it was coincidence. Nervous energy making me see patterns that weren't there. I held my breath deliberately, testing it, feeling faintly ridiculous even as I did it. The figure on screen held its breath at the exact same moment. I switched to a wider shot, camera 5, covering more of that section of the floor. The figure was gone from camera 6's frame entirely. Not walked out of frame, just gone. The way something disappears when you blink and reopen your eyes to an empty room. Camera 5 showed nothing, just shelving, shadow, the low hum of refrigeration units. I did a full walkthrough after that, flashlight in hand, radio clipped uselessly to my belt since it still wasn't picking up any channel. East loading dock, every row of shelving, the back corridor by the loading bay doors. Nothing. No intruder, no forced entry, no sign that a single other person had been on that floor all night. I chalked it up to exhaustion. I'd been picking up extra shifts for months, barely sleeping between them. And I told myself tired eyes on grainy monitors will show you all kinds of things that aren't real. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. 2 nights later, Same shift, same monitors, camera 6 picked up movement again. Same figure, same uniform, moving along the same stretch of shelving near the east dock. This time I didn't reach for the radio. I sat perfectly still and watched. It moved exactly the way I moved. Not similar, identical. The same slight limp I've had since a knee injury 3 years back, favoring the left leg on turns. The same habit I have of touching my radio clip every few steps, an old nervous tic I've never once mentioned to a living soul, let alone been filmed doing by anyone but myself. I stopped calling it the intruder somewhere around then, at least in my own head. I didn't have another word for it yet. I just knew, with the kind of cold certainty you don't argue with, that whatever the cameras were showing me wasn't a person who happened to look like me. It was showing me. The third time it happened, 6 nights after the first, I didn't stay in the booth. Camera 6 picked up the figure again around the same time, just past 11 p.m., moving along the east dock with that same unmistakable gait. This time, instead of watching from the safety of 6 monitors and a locked booth door, I got up, grabbed my flashlight, and walked out onto the floor myself. I want to be honest that I don't fully understand why. Some part of me needed to stand in the same physical space as whatever this was, needed to prove to myself, one way or another, that it couldn't possibly be real. I reached the east dock section a few minutes later, flashlight sweeping across empty shelving, my own footsteps the only sound on that concrete floor besides the refrigeration hum. Then, from the booth radio still clipped to my belt, the one that had been dead air for 6 straight nights, a voice came through. My voice. Flat and slightly delayed, the way audio sounds when it's been recorded and played back rather than spoken live. East Dock is clear. Continuing patrol. The exact words I say into that radio most nights, in the exact tone I say them in, except I had not spoken into that radio at all. I stood completely still in that aisle, flashlight beam shaking slightly across the shelving, and somewhere behind me, from the direction of the booth I'd just left unlocked and unattended, I heard the booth door swing shut. Not slam, just close, deliberately, the way you'd close a door behind yourself on your way in. I did not go back to check who had closed it. I walked straight to the emergency exit at the far end of the warehouse floor, radio still clipped uselessly to my belt, and I did not stop walking until I was standing in the parking lot under the sodium lights, breathing hard, staring back at a building I was apparently no longer inside of. Except the booth light, visible through the small window from where I stood in that lot, was still on, and for just a moment. I've told myself 100 times since that it could have been a trick of the glass, a reflection, anything but what it looked like. I saw a shape seated in that booth chair, facing the monitors, wearing the same navy uniform I had on. I did not go back inside that night. I called my supervisor from the parking lot, told him I wasn't feeling well, and drove home with every door locked and the radio in my car tuned to nothing but static the entire way. I gave my notice the next morning. Told them it was for a schedule change. It wasn't. I still think about that shape in the booth some nights, sitting where I used to sit, watching monitors that used to be mine. I've wondered, more than once, in the specific quiet hours when sleep won't come, whether it clocked out when its shift ended, or whether it's still in there right now, patient as ever, waiting for someone else's shift to start, so it can finally walk out that front door wearing someone else's face instead.